Hello everyone, my name is Sola Abulu. I'm the principal consultant of Sola Abulu and Associates. And so I'm here to do a very, very short video. I always say this anyway, and sometimes it's short, sometimes it's not. But it's on the Strategic Communications Consultant checklist. And the reason why I decided to do this video was because I suddenly recently became aware that there is an audience of fellow communications practitioners and consultants, or both aspiring and current, who are interested in, just finding out what the journey is like. I found this out on Instagram, by the way, because there was a post that we did comparing PR agency and communications consultants, and it got so much engagement, even from people outside of the country. And then some other person contacted me, and I was like, okay, I haven't really seen this as an audience. Maybe this is something that I should begin to do. So it's just going to be, this is just the first of it. And depending on the reception and the comments that we get, I may now decide to do a little bit more. And of course, questions, because then, yeah, this is purely for the community. So this is a checklist of what I would say the traits that you need to have to be a communications consultant. And again, this is for people who are at mid-career and late stage, because definitely you can't be thinking of being a consultant if you have just entered. You're still in the learning stage, you haven't gone through the apprenticeship. So consultant is generally somebody who is seen as an expert, subject matter expert in a certain field or areas. So let's get that out of the way, just so that you know. But then, even if you are new to the profession, I think it's good for you to see this and just know that, okay, so this is a possibility for you in future. You may then understand if you're working in an organization, when you see people doing certain things, you're able to put it in context for yourself. And I think some of the things I'm going to be sharing is useful to begin to develop your skills. At least know that that is what is expected, or that it helps. And when these sessions happen, I say things both intended and unintended, so there may be something for you, regardless. So let's get into it. So I'm going to run through about 13 things I have listed here. I'm going to be very fast about it. If you have any questions, again, this is just about opening our minds to what it means to be a communications consultant. And what does a communications consultant do? What we do, which is really different from what PR agencies do. And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to check and see. I think I have a video where I talked about the difference between PR agency and communications consultant. Yes, there is a video on that. Just run through, you'll find it. But essentially, what a communications consultant does is they provide the expertise of strategic communications, either in terms of internal or external communications, brand reputation, crisis communications, crisis management, issues communications, all those things. So they provide expertise on a particular area, and they provide it in a way, they help the organization. So they work from inside out, unlike PR agencies that generally you've already decided what you're going to do. Or PR agencies work is mostly externally faced, whether it's research, whether it's marketing PR, whether it's events, campaigns, whatever. But for a communications consultant, you work from inside out. So you have to first understand the business, the organizational context, and then you use your understanding of that business to help them solve their problem. That's the big difference between consultancy and an agency. So when a consultant works with a company, you will almost at a stage be wondering whether you can almost get confused. Like, is this person really an external person? Because the person would have understood the context of the organization so well that if you are a PR agency working, because I mean, I've worked on projects where I was the consultant and they were PR agency. I always see how they look at me like, she's so embedded. You know what I mean? But then that's what the job entails. You have to really, really get into the nitty gritty of what the organization is facing. The leaders must feel that you understand what you're saying, and then you are able to then project that. So all of your advice is based on your understanding of the business and what they are trying to achieve. So it's very different from, and of course for consultants, outcomes, results is very, very important. It's not like PR that you just run a campaign, whether it lands, it doesn't land. No, most consultants, when you are brought in, there's a specific problem and you have to fix it before you leave. So you make sure that before you take on any role, it's something that you can fix. But anyway, if you have questions, there's a lot that I could share on this, not that I think about it, but if I go on, I just would derail. So if you have questions based on what I'm saying, please just send me, comments wherever platform you're watching this. And then I will do another video. I'll comment and respond, or do another video explaining. So one of the things, you have to own one thing. For it to be a communications consultant, you cannot be everything to everyone. I mean, let's use the example of medical practice. You see, when they talk about, I'm going to see the consultant gynecologist, or the consultant pediatrician, or the consultant cardiologist, they have centered in one day. And even for them, even in the cardiology space, there are areas of specialty. You know what I mean? It helps for deepening, for expertise, and also for people to, even for recognition and all of that. A highly effective communication consultant, you have one unmistakable area of expertise. For me, obviously, it's strategic communications, reputation management, and brand. But then, I'm a strategic communications expert. But my core specialty, brand reputation management. That's it. So within that, there are many elements and all of that. But brand and reputation, that is it for me. You know what I'm saying? So people should instantly know what problem you solve, and that's that. Which is why for me, you find out that I never ever call myself a PR anything, because that's not really what I am. Yes, I can advise, we can provide strategy on PR. Whenever we do communications strategies for people, we do have a PR element in it, but that's not, do you understand? That's not my area of expertise, and that's not how we position ourselves. We are strategic communications consultants, and that's my expertise area. That's our expertise area. And you can even see, and that's why this checklist, I didn't say PR. Please pay attention to the words I'm using here. It's not as if PR isn't embedded in some of the things, but then our positioning, the way in which we promote and we project ourselves, strategic community, very deliberate, very, very specific. And it has to do with our value offering, as well as our differentiation in the market, as well as our expertise area. So you cannot be everything to everyone. You'll be completely forgettable, because I have a specific problem and I want someone that can handle it specifically, and that's what your clients want. So know exactly who you serve. Oh my goodness, I could talk about this for days. I think the point at which I realized this, I think, was a turning point for us, for me personally, and for SANA, because you just, and it's a journey I'm still growing on, because then you don't waste your time. Do you understand what I'm saying? A lot of people come, I get people saying, but because I know who is my client and I know who is not my client, I am very quick to advise and receive and say, yes, I think we're not the best person, or and I have people that I recommend for some of those workspaces when they come. And it will save you a lot of pain, because when you don't know who your client is, you will end up, I don't want to say, let me not use the analogy I want to use, but it's better for you to know, so you don't get yourself into the wrong spaces. And so the best consultants know their ideal audience, they know the industry. Please, are you listening to me? I hear some common people thinking that you can just go all over the place. No, in theory, yes, but in practice, no. In practice, most of us have our core industries, and then you have the related industries around that core, because it's about expertise. Remember what I said at the beginning about knowing the business. If you've never worked in the sector, you don't know what the issues are, it will be very difficult for you to be able to support them, because our work as consultants, like I said, you have to understand them first of all. For someone like me, I mean, now that I think about it, like now I haven't consulted deeply. Oh well, I've done one consulting job for a hospital, a major hospital in Lagos. But I can consult for the health industry, because apart from that, I have been interested in it. I would have had it. I've been, let's just say, I've had a lot of reasons to be proximate with them. But I understand the sector, and I think the work I did for them that time, I understand it very well. For one thing, is a sector that I have not been involved with, but I have followed very closely. So I can support them. And again, maybe because I've also been involved, the company where I worked for, health was a really big thing. So we had our own health thing. So for me, it's just, anyway, let's just say I have some adjacency, proximity to that. So it's not so far from me. But then my core industry, by and large, is mostly energy, public sector, and related sectors. So all those things that are around energy, public sector, tech to some extent, IT. But at the core, it's energy for now. In terms of the consulting work that we do, a lot of it comes from the energy and then related sectors. You know what I mean? So you also need to know the decision makers. This is also very important. If you are working for a client, you need to know who makes the decisions. Otherwise, you will have problems. Let me just go into that. So, biggest pain points, you need to understand exactly what the industry pain points are and what your client's pain points are. And then you have to be very, very specific. So, in other words, know who you are serving. Just know who you are serving. Then you give clients a reason to choose you. I mean, consulting is not something that you can just, people have to make a choice to choose you. I mean, and it's the same thing really. Even like I'm giving the example of the medical sector. Gynecologists, I mean, I've entered hospitals where you see like there are maybe like 3 or 4 surgeons, and you see everybody queuing up to see one particular surgeon. And they're trying to change that surgeon's workload is too much. Everybody's choosing that. So what has happened is that that surgeon has either intentionally or unintentionally given all their patients a reason to want to choose them. So you have to ask yourself, why are you different? Why are you credible? I mean, and I'll kid you. I mean, for those of us doing this kind of intellectual service or knowledge-based entrepreneurship, or however you want to call it, if you cannot differentiate yourself, if you cannot demonstrate credibility, nobody is going to, as in, forget, don't even talk about cost, price, value capture, all of that is not going to happen. And you have to be able to articulate that value. You have to be able to tell it. You have to be able to show it as well. So that reason, you have to give them a reason. Particularly if you are trying to sell to corporate clients where the decision is going to be made by a cohort of people, not just one person. If it's even corporate clients that has governance, that one is even, because then they have guidelines, they have things. So there has to be a reason. Why would they choose you? Why would they choose you as opposed to others? And you, if you're particularly for some of those of us that are independent, niche, really small firms, why would I, go over all the big firms with fancy offices and then, and skyscraper buildings and go for you? So that why you have to find that why. Then okay, I think I've dropped the slide. Okay, no. So give your clients a reason to choose you. Then build visibility. And remember what I said about it's not just the reason. Remember, you are convincing not just one person. If you are targeting corporate clients, you have to convince one person and give that person enough proof points to convince many others, from managers to procurement to contracting. It is a task. But then if it's compelling, your reason will do the heavy lifting for you. So build visibility that creates trust. Again, this is all of these are interrelated. Opportunities rarely find invisible experts. It's just the truth. And I always say to people, I say, when people contact me one on one, I said, what you cannot be is be an invisible consultant. When, all that thing about your work will find you. No, nobody's going to find you. Do you understand? You have to make sure you are seen, you are accessible, you are visible. People know where to find you. They know where you are, and then they know where to find you when they need you. So you need to, and there are many ways for that recognition. I always say to people, you cannot be invisible in person and also invisible online. So if you don't have a strong online presence, then I assume that you are doing a lot of in-person things. You're out there, you're attending professional associations, you're networking like crazy. You have a community that is already very strong and active. Maybe you're that kind of person that you already have, a lot of networks, a lot of MDs and CEOs. You have a ready market from your personal network. Then fine, you can be invisible online, or have a general light touch online, or even be invisible. But you can't be absent in the physical space within your target audience and then absent online. So if you are someone that you want to do, online visibility, which I will always recommend, even if you have a strong professional network, always share your valuable insights. Speak publicly. That's another way of doing the in-person thing. Publish consistently. Be visible where your audience already is. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't go and be visible somewhere else and be expecting them to come and meet you there. No, you go where they are. So visibility creates familiarity. Familiarity breeds trust. Exactly. So, well, and of course, those of you who follow me know this is part of the reasons why we are very visible online. So, results must be tangible and visible. So, trust is earned through evidence. You have to show that. It's for that reason, for instance, when we do our training courses, because we post it on social media, when we've actually done it, we post it afterwards. And to be honest, sometimes it's a bit of a almost like a bother to me. It's not really, but then the reason what I say to myself is that, Shola, if you don't post it, nobody's going to know that these things happen. They'll just believe that you're just hyping yourself up and that you're not really doing this thing. So it doesn't really, it's not about, oh, it was whether it was a small class or it was a big class or whatever. Just show that yes, these things I am actually having. When I say this is the fifth cohort, you had better believe it's the fifth cohort. And if you check our digital footprint, you will see that we have shown. And we do say to our participants when they're coming in that, we will use this photo on social media because it's part of our credibility, just to be able to say that so that people understand that we actually hold these sessions. We're not just using it as, marketing tool or fluff or whatever. So trust is earned and it's social proof, and people see that and people respond to that. And again, some of our participants, unsolicited, they do post about it, they talk about the experience, which is really, really nice. So client testimonials, that is gold, that is gold. And we never ever ask for it. People willingly do that, which for me is just so heartwarming. I thank God for that. So case studies, you can also do that as well. We have a few case studies on our website. I don't really do so much of that because in the consulting space, a lot of the work that we do is credible. sorry, it's confidential, and it will not be professional from. Even if I write case studies, people will know who it is. A lot of the consulting work that we do is too sensitive to even write a hypothetical case study about. So which is why you see a lot of us, most of the time I'm talking about the training. We talk about the training elements because the confidential things, consulting side, we can't really talk about. So results also, I also cannot share the results of what the work that we've done for clients, because there are strategic things that are going into it's part of their competitive intelligence. So the only things that we can share are the things that we show. So a lot of it, the results, somehow it happens. If we're in backdoor conversations, we do talk about this, we've done this for this client. I do try to maintain confidentiality as much as possible, because again, the industry that we work mostly in is a very small industry. So while you are telling them, just know that after that meeting, if you name their names, they will come and say, we met Shola or SA and A. She told us what she did for you. That's not a good look. So as much as possible, you let people know the work that you have done, but then you respect confidentiality. There are cases where there's some work that we've done, particularly those that ended up in public events, that we were able to say, yes, we did this. But for those ones that were confidential, strategic, we could only refer to it and say, for somebody in the industry, this, whatever our client, we did a work around this. We don't name and all of that. But results are important. So recommendations and referrals, again, for someone like us starting off, this was a very strong thing from us. A lot of the initial work and clients that we got was from colleagues that we have worked with in the past. Referrals, in fact, that referrals just do the heavy lifting for you before you begin to actually show what you are able to do. Awards and recognition is also a way of being tangible and visible. And I like to put a caveat here. Let it be the credible one, unsolicited, independent, and merit based, not the ones that you pay for. And you know what I mean. Nigerians in the house, you know what I'm saying. People believe what others say about you more than what you say about yourself. It's really true. I can testify to that. I can really testify to that. I don't want to say more than that. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean you shouldn't say what you have to say about yourself, but what others say about you carries a whole lot more weight as a consultant. So it's also important when you get into the room, and this particular one, I think it's important for not just consultant, but every communications professional, but particularly as you move into leadership level, you need to carry presence when you speak. In fact, I shouldn't even, that should not be before, it should be when you speak. Clients buy confidence as much as competence. The same thing with your leaders. If you're a comms professional, if people say that you're not confident you're not confident, you're not competent, and then you're also not confident. In fact, that confidence is even worse. I think it's bad if you're confident and then you lack competence, because then that's just braggadocious nonsense, fluff. But then if you're competent, I think it's sad if you're competent and then you lack the confidence to back it up, because then people will believe that there's something, that competence is questionable, because they expect that with competence should come confidence. But I know that a lot of us comms people, we are generally introverts. Some people maybe insecurities, you just don't have somebody to coach and mentor you, whatever the reason. So but just know that you have to really address that confidence thing. So you have to develop executive presence. The way you show up as a consultant is non-negotiable. Now, even if you don't have some of these things and you're working in an organization, it's fine. But as a consultant, if you're representing, like you're saying, I'm the principal, I'm the lead, you must have that executive presence to be able to command the room before you can speak to a board, because board members don't have time to waste, and they're not expecting some junior, somebody who doesn't belong in the room to be there. So you have to be able to carry that. You have to be able to carry that up, and it's not by bragado. And you see, the thing about board, what I like about senior people is that they can spot a fake a mile off. You can fool anybody, but a real board, particularly board of the, like what you call the top companies, you can't fool those people because they've seen it all. And many of them have been on multiple boards, they've been around. So the minute you come in and what you are saying is not making sense, or or you are projecting, or you are an AI somebody, your presentation it did not come from insight, it did not come from experience, it will show. But anyway, so you have to have that professional gravitas. And this is not just packaging. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm talking about, when they say, when substance that is really there, and then calm authority. This is very important. Calmness, composure, that authority that comes from, and I think you know what I mean. That authority that comes from knowing something. When you know something, there's, you know what I'm saying? And then strong communication. People have to be able to understand what you're saying. You cannot be stumbling over your words. You cannot hear you. Don't understand you. Your communicative language must be strong. Must be your command of language. Particularly when you call yourself a communications consultant. Why should you be struggling for words? Really? So your language proficiency must be unquestionable. People must see that's in you. So how you show up often shapes how you're valued. Really, your presence was command authority. I can say a lot more about this, but I don't want to. I don't think this is the. I don't want to go into this because this really is the game changer. Consultants, please pay attention to this. I may talk separately, a separate video on this, but I would need your feedback before I would do that. Okay, so let's move on. Be known for excellence. Reputation is built project by project. It's true. What people have a saying that begets no be property. So you cannot build a reputation based on something that you just did last year, 2 years ago, 3 years, and be carrying it forever. It is compounded over time. So it is not just about it. When you have one project is good, you can talk about that and reference the next one. But you also need to you have to keep adding them on and saying when we did this for this, when we did that. You cannot keep on referring to one all the time. So you need to sweat the details. You need to deliver consistently. A good consultant must always exceed expectations. That's what I aim to do. We set our standards high, but we our intention is to blow our clients away, because anything short of that, they will always feel like they were shortchanged. Do you understand? You have to really exceed the expectations for them to believe that this was value, what as in you give them more than they imagined. And that takes a lot of doing for us, particularly because we actually set the ball. And I think people come to us with high expectations. I see this particularly in my training classes where we ask people, have we met or exceeded your expectations? I kid you not, most people we just say, as in only 30% will say we exceeded, about 70% will say we met. But thank God nobody has ever said we went below. But I know that's because they come in with really high expectations. So it's not easy to exceed the expectation, but you have to try. That has to be the goal. It's not just to meet it. And I think again that's the big difference between us and PR agencies, because I think PR agencies just meeting client expectations is fine. I don't know if they're able to exceed it in that sense most of the time, and or set that. But even if they don't, once you meet client expectations, it's fine. You held the event and all of that. But for us, meeting the expectation is not enough. That's the baseline. You really have to exceed, because that's what will make them call you back and refer you and speak effusively about you to other people, which is important for us because we are not doing volume work like PR agencies. The most important one, which I would say, never stop learning. You cannot afford to stop learning as a communications consultant. You must be anyway. Anyway, and you have to model that excellence. People have to see it. So there's so much I can say about this in terms of people must see that your work is improving. So if you worked with a client in 2023, they must see, if they call you back again in 2025, they must see that you have improved, that your excellence, your perfectionism, your knowledge of your craft, the way you present yourself, even your presentations, they must see that you have improved, and they must see that you have moved in step. You cannot be repeating the same presentation. Do you understand what I'm saying? People, oh no. Anyway, let me just move on. Make your expertise, sorry, there's a bit of, I hope you're not hearing some noise coming into the space. So make your expertise visible. People should be able to see your competence before they even meet you. So create content that demonstrates your thinking, your frameworks, your experience, the problem solving ability. Don't just tell it, but show it. Your value has to be visible. And I know you can't just share everything, so don't share everything. But we in SA&A, knowledge is our product, so we share a lot. But I kid you not, for anything that we share online, just know that we have times 1,000 of it in our kitty bag. Do you understand what I'm saying? What we share online, the frameworks that you see, 0.000, there is more where it came from. Do you know why? Because we actually create customized frameworks tailored to the problem that you have. So what we're sharing online is generic. So it's no skin off our nose to share it. And if you can use that to solve your problem, that's part of our corporate social responsibility. No harm done. But if you're looking for a tailored solution to your problem, one that was made specially for you, like the way Vicky James brides, bridal gowns are made specially for her, whatever, you come to us. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because what we will make for that client, we cannot reproduce, we can't use it for someone else because it was tailored to your problem, your context, and your situation. So it is not a ready to wear. This is a bespoke framework. Are you feeling me? So how visible is your value? That you have to make that expertise visible. And that's a lot of what we do. The reason why I'm not giving my examples, because I think those of you, anybody watching this video, I think you must know SAND to some extent. So you understand that this is what we do. I'm not just sharing textbook. This is my personal checklist, our personal checklist of how we have evolved into this role that we're in and how we're growing and what we've seen that works. And I'm trying not to give too many personal examples, but I think you can get a sense of that sense of this is lived experience for me, and bankable with, that has created bankable results for us. So build reputation that outlasts marketing. Your greatest marketing asset is your track record. That is so, so true. So you need to deliver so consistently that clients become repeat clients and referrals become your strongest growth engine. That's true. You as a consultant, you cannot build your reputation based on advertising, because no matter how much you advertise just makes people aware of you, but that's not what's going to make them buy. What's going to make them buy is referrals and being able to see that what you have done with other people, and most likely for other people to say, just go to this person, just go to this firm, they will solve the problem for you. So advertising is good, but you cannot, and marketing is good, content marketing, that's very, very important, but both of them work side by side. You have to be able to, even sometimes the referrals is about, sometimes it's about you even putting out a post and some of your clients even responding to it. That in a way is like an indirect referral, because people are then saying that, I mean, I see that sometimes with our training courses where people don't go on it and be like, oh, you need to go for a course, and they just putting out there, that's already a referral, even though it's not targeted to a known person, but that is like social proof. And I think for us, particularly on the training side, this also on the consulting side, we have a lot of repeat clients. In fact, we have many repeats. We've never had a situation where we have not had one client call us back, consulting clients. It's either we couldn't come back for other reasons. So all our consulting clients, almost all, I would say, particularly the major ones, not just the ones that we just did a one-off for, but the ones that we worked with, maybe the project lasted about 6 months or thereabouts or a year, they called us back. And we have there's always that relationship thing where we know that whenever, if they ever get to a point and have a certain kind of challenge, where we will have the right of first refusal on that piece of work. So that's important. And some of them have, they speak really well of us, which we thank God for and we're grateful for. But we also make sure that we don't, you understand that, when let's just say we don't fall their hand, Nigerian language, in other words, that we maintain the delivery, the excellence that is worthy of their referral, of their continuous referral. So stay curious, and this is a very personal one. I'll say to consultants, to you as a communications professional. The landscape is constantly evolving. It is evolving as we speak. I mean, I have found out that every year, this year we're doing a lot of writing. If you follow us, you see that we're putting out a lot of publications. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I see that the landscape is changing. And I cannot say because I wrote on this 2 years ago, it's still valid today. And I'm also finding that it's important for me to document my thinking at every point in the year, so that I can see how changes have come over the years. I just constantly, I mean, a typical example is AI. As of 2 years ago, I mean, like now, we've had to put AI, we've incorporated the use of AI, and in terms of research, more visibly. I mean, as in now, I would do a presentation and say, this is what Gemini had to say about this. I would label it as such. I would not have done, I mean, I wouldn't be doing this 2 years ago. I wouldn't do that. There are certain elements of the research that I would say, this was AI enabled. I'm going to test, and then I would test it with my manual sources and things like that, or I'll test it with different sources here and there. But it is being incorporated into our practice in a way that was unthinkable 2 years before. We are still writing 100% human and will continue to do that. But I'm saying, particularly for things like media mentoring, sentiment analysis, for everything that you use AI for, you will say, this is the tool I used to get this. And these are the challenges, these are the gaps. And then you talk about the things that you also did manually with human intelligence. But the point is, you have to keep at pace with what is happening in business, in society, current affairs, tech development. You have to be able to read very widely, ask better questions, study people. In fact, that asking of questions is the key hallmark of an efficient consultant, because the ability to ask questions and make people think about things in a way that they had not before you came on board, that is your that is a strong differentiator. If you cannot ask the right questions, you will struggle as a consultant, because many times what the client tells you is the problem is not really the problem. So your ability to listen to what they're saying, to read the situation, to study the environment and the people, and then ask the questions that causes even the owners of the business to say, wow, I didn't see it that way. That external perspective is your gift. And you can't have that external perspective if you do not know a lot about many things, or know a little about many things. So you when I see people, like, I'm chronically on social media, I see people who are comfortable, and at my age, and I know notice that they're not up to date on what is going on out there. I'm like, so how are you doing your job? I'm really curious, because I can't tell you the number of times that the fact that I am chronically online, or that I have a very active Twitter feed, is what saved me in a conversation, or rather was very helpful. Some tidbits, some news item that I got to know is what helped me in a conversation. And it doesn't even have to be in the sector in which I'm active with. Just knowing what was the most, the biggest things that are going on in business, in society, when, whether Dangote, when Dangote is listing, how much he made from his IPO, first hold co, even what is going on in banking and finance. Right now they want to sell shares. How many shares were now in the first hold co? Just understanding all those things going on, even at the international level with open AI. You just have to keep, because you do not know if you are someone, a communications consultant. Ideally, you should be advising boards. So if you don't even know what's going on in the world, you are not justified to be in the room. So you have to be able to challenge assumptions. Curiosity keeps your expertise relevant. I can't say enough about this. This curiosity has saved me. In fact, I think that's my strongest point. Because to be honest, when you're a communications consultant, you're no longer doing the 9 to 5 workplace thing. So if you're not curious, you will not know what's happening in the workplace, and you will be advising people who are managing an organization that has a 9 to 5 workplace. How will you be able to, how would I say, relate or say things that resonate with them? You're not working with them. So I mean, like, for instance, there was a conversation in the banking industry last week on Twitter, no, yesterday on Twitter, and there was a very strong observation that I made about that conversation, which I will carry into further conversations coming forward. I have already filed it in my brain, because I know that there will be a day that I will need to refer to that. So that's the way it works. As a consultant, you have to keep abreast of what is happening with business, society, culture, current affairs, and tech, and even politics to some extent, because politics affects business, politics organizes, affects culture. It also affects workplace sensitivities, and that is the space in which you operate as a communications consultant. So the best communications consultant, this is where we bring it to an end. You have a clear specialty. Just to wrap this up, you know exactly who you serve, and you make sure that you stand out from your competitors. If you cannot stand out, then there's no reason for anybody to choose you. And you have to be able to build visible credibility and deliver measurable results, tangible measurable results. Your clients must not be left in doubt as to the impact that your presence or your role brought. They should not be floundering and wondering, why did we go with this person? That should not be a question that should even be coming up at all. So you also have to be able to earn that lasting trust. Most importantly, never stop learning. Now, I want you to go back on those 13 points of the checklist and think about how many of them can you confidently tick and say, this is a strength for me, this is a weakness, this is an opportunity area, or this is actually, like an area that I'm not even, is a big threat. I don't even have this at all. And then you know where you're starting from. And then you can begin to close and work towards closing that gap. So save this checklist, and you can revisit every quarter or every month, depending on how close you are to your transition journey, if you are in this already. But most importantly, I would really, really love to hear from you. If you have watched this video, please let me hear what your thoughts are. And I look forward to catching up with you and responding to your comments as well. See you on the next video, and thank you very much for being here. Take care.